So, in order for Ed to present, he'll need to be added to the scene. So can guys hear him? Like now you should be able to hear Ed.
Development of cyber physical systems and content development training for Industry 4.0. He's conducted over 80 official Siri assessments, developed the CSA certification program, and conducted more than 30 CSA trainings. Um, During the webinar today, we're going to be covering the following topics. And with that being said, I will pass the microphone over to my colleague Sridhar, who will walk us through the first couple sections. Sridhar.
Thank you very much, Ed. I hope I'm quite audible to everyone. A very warm welcome and good morning to everyone. Thank you very much, Ed, for giving that good introduction. So, so I would like to. So I hope everyone could able to see the screen, right? So I'm just navigating here. So here in this webinar, the most important aspect is that we'd like to share some of the insights that we have gathered across the more than half the decade, almost journey with this Smart Industry Readiness Index. So, from we more talk about sustainability, right? And everyone is talking about as a climate change increasingly becoming a key focus for most of the manufacturers in driving the environmental impact. But how can we achieve sustainable manufacturing? That is through the smart manufacturing, right? Digitalization is one of the most fundamental aspects that often is overlooked by the manufacturers. So smart manufacturing or the sustainable manufacturing is not about just looking at environmentally responsible, right? It's about cost savings. It's about improving operational efficiency. How can you enhance the brand reputations? That's quite important, right? So in order to give you a further insight about it, I would like to share a key insights that you could see here that we have gathered across the industry archetypes, right? Later, my co-presenter will able to share more information about these different archetypes. So you could see here they are from our Siri cluster point of view, they are 12 to 14 industries. And then these industries have been featured into different archetypes based on these industry rankings. And one of the most top performing that we observed is from semiconductors, followed by electronics, pharmaceuticals, energy and chemical downstreams, logistics. So these were the top five industries that are more advanced and more mature and quite have the risk appetite in order to invest in these kind of solutions. So maturity of this electronic sector, you can see, is heavily dispersed due to different piece of adoptions or manufacturing processes, right? So what does it mean for an organizations? What is the strength there? I would like to share some of the mega trends that's happening, especially on the Americas regions: technology, talent, supply chain, smart factory, and sustainability are the enablers, right? So you could see here most of the organizations which we have seen personally in our more than 5 to 7 years of our journey with this assessments, you can see here manufacturers are boosting digital investments. In fact, 70 to 80% of the CEOs, which we discussed during this activity, they always emphasize, Sridhar, we would like to invest in digital technologies. We already have embarked into this journey. But where to start, how to start, that's where they start. And sustaining one's investments. So Smart Industry Readiness Index addresses these areas in a more impact-led approach rather than the technology-led approach, right? And one of the biggest challenges I personally encounter during our discussions with the C-level, they always emphasize that talent is one of the biggest challenges. Yes, they have this digital tools. Technology is not an issue, but having the right mindset, having the skill set to scale these technologies rather than stuck in the pilot bucket race. That's one of the biggest challenges we see from the organizations. Followed by supply chain, you could see here, especially after the pandemic crisis, there's a huge emphasis on the supply chain resilience. So, but how do you have this systemized, structured approach? That's why we'll be discussing later through our framework approach. And smart factory, we are talking about Many manufacturers are investing in technologies in use cases like augmented reality, digital twin, we're talking about energy consumptions, efficiency driven, especially OE driven. But however, it's quite hard to share, but that's the truth, right? Only 23 to 25% of the manufacturers have managed to scale these operations into the smart manufacturing efforts. And for that, sustainability, as I emphasized earlier, is one of the main challenges faced by the manufacturers. During obtaining a comprehensive understanding, what does its sustainability means for it? So later we will also emphasize a bit more on this, how as a manufacturer you can able to embark into the sustainable manufacturing journey, finding a balance between your cost, your carbon, and your profit. That is the biggest challenge for most of the manufacturers, right? Because they don't have any availability of the data, and the data come from multiple facilities, different landscapes, so they don't have a kind of unprecedented seamless data. Yeah. So with this, you could see here, even there's a study from McKinsey states that one of the biggest challenges from 2016 to 2030, significant amount of efforts will be put into cognitive efforts, technological efforts. So you need to get prepared for your skill sets in order to address these challenges. One of the biggest challenges that we have seen for the manufacturers, they invest in millions, but at the end, they couldn't able to scale these technologies. They always stuck in this pilot phases. Why? They couldn't able to have them understand the maturity of the organizations or the mindset changes. Yeah. So with this, we would like to showcase some of the industry gaps that we can address, and you can see from America perspective, there's a significant emphasis on the skill sets, right? So with certain industries, they are really quite emphasized on these kind of a skill set gaps. So, okay, now we talk about technology, we talk about organization, we talk about people, but how do we measure this? How should I start investing in it? What is the right approach? Where do I know I can able to measure my success and able to validate whether I'm in the right direction? That is where we are talking about Smart Industry Readiness Index. So you can see here the Smart Industry Readiness Index is reviewed by experts, and later I think Raymond will share more information about it. Technology companies, consultant firms, industry academic. It's an independent standard with the formal assessments that applicable for companies irrespective of sizes or irrespective of the industry product. And it's quite comprehensively referenced, and most important is quantitative data guided benchmarks that helps the manufacturers to address the right pain points and navigate in the right directions. With this, I would like to give a quick high level overview about the Smart Industry Readiness Index. It comprises of three building blocks: process, technology, and organization, together developed by Insight. And then we have been an esteemed partner in terms of driving this steering globally. So you could see here the emphasis is not only in technology, it's about the holistic 360 degrees of manufacturing, starting from your processes, improving your technology, and then addressing the organizations, upskilling them, right? So you could see here the series so far, I believe, adopted more than 4,000 organizations around 50 countries globally. And you could see here now it has been acknowledged by World Economic Forum as the global standard, internationally recognized standard to build the world's largest benchmarking data sets, so that you have to driven by a community approach, and it's based on the data rather than going just on the ad hoc or anecdote approaches. Yeah. So it's the right statement, right? You cannot improve what you do not measure. So this is where most of the organizations struggle. They do a self-assessment. Yeah, they do some kind of an ad hoc areas to see the technologies that give any impacts to their operations, without having any proper structured framework to measure the success, right? So you cannot improve what you do not measure. So you need to start that first measuring where you are in terms of your organization's technology and in terms of processes. Then you can focus on the next step of actions on these aspects, right? So you could see here the Syrian Smart Industry Readiness Index covers the entire paradigm. So that means from the vertical integration within your factory, the four walls, from your top floor to the shop floor, the supply chain, from the entire value stream of your supply chain, starting from your order management to your end mile navigations to the different phases of your upstream and downstream of your supply chain, understanding your product life cycles. Because you talk about sustainability, product life cycle is one of the prominent futures that it addresses that part, right? And then looking at the technology, where from shop floor, from enterprise point of view, from a facility point of view, covering as an organization's readiness. Because if organization is not ready, trust me, the transformation never happens, right? And we have seen so many organizations, not only we are talking about MNCs, we are talking about not only SMEs, MNCs, they struggle in terms of this kind of transformations. Yeah. So, and if you look at it, it's a quite comprehensive assessments, right? You can able to perform this assessment with the help of a certified Siri assessor, a third party certified assessor, an industry 4.0 expert who assess your organization, or in terms you can build your own expertise to assess your organization's maturity. And then you can able to identify the high impact areas that you like to focus on, right? The whole assessment matrix you can see here is focused on a tier framework where technology, focusing on the product profit and ratios, impact to the bottom line, and effectiveness to the business KPIs, because that is where most of the manufacturers fail. They don't map it to the effectiveness to the KPIs that they would like to improve. And how does it going to address their cost profile? How they going to improve the profit? Because everything comes down to the money, right? And then the most important USP of using this is addressing the reference to the broader community. Now you have access to the whole world, and then you can able to benchmark against the industry, specific industries. Later, you can able to know more about the industries that you would like to have subclusters. So then you can drive this benchmarking accordingly and use this as a benchmarking as a navigating tool to validate your efforts, right? So the whole of the benchmarking initiatives, current mentions on your current state of your facilities, benchmarking against your industry peers, and prioritizing your areas for improvement. So that is how the whole assessment focus on, and it's quite comprehensive. Within a 2 days time frame, you could able to identify your organization's maturity. If you could look into this bar graph, right? So great, you can have your maturity across all your dimensions, and then you benchmark against the global. So that's the 3B, right? So where it's against the best in class, against the broad middle, and also the bottom performance. So you know exactly where you are, and then how you want to navigate this to the next phases of your improvements. With this, you can see here the throttle. So that organization is a more customized results pertaining to their improvements in their processes, technology, and organizations, what kind of areas that you like to focus. So you have a very detailed snapshot of your organizations powered by your quantitative analysis of the data, right? Not only from your organization's data, but it also helps to map it against the global set of benchmarking, identifying from the right industries which solution is most prominent and which will be able to help you to achieve that kind of a profit statements that you will be defining in the initial stage. Yeah. And one of the biggest USP that we see from the organization when we sit with this always the C-level discussions, they could able to pinpoint the mapping towards the KPIs. Okay, now I would like to focus on sustainability, but why we need to be sustainable? What is an impact it has on our costs, on our profit? So in order to address this, as I mentioned, supply chain is one of the biggest challenges, especially after the pandemic crisis. Most of the C-level, they say, Shida, for me, reducing my inventory, having the cash flow is quite important. Forget SMEs, even MNCs, they are struggling in that. So how could I achieve this? So what does this smart manufacturing means for me? What does the digitalization means for me? How are you going to improve utility efficiency, cut down your utility costs by having the digitalizations? One of the biggest challenges that we see in organization now is the connectivity part. Connecting between your IT and OT elements in your shop floor, on your production floor, there's no visibility of the data. So then you can map it across to the industry's time to market. One of the prominent futures, how quickly you can bring new products into the market. That emphasize how quickly you are into this organization, right? How you're able to have this competitive edge towards your peers. So the benchmarking here, I would like later I'll pass it to Raymond to give a bit more information about it. But you could see here the benchmarking gives a clear against the global perspective and also apple to apple comparison with your industry, with your subcluster to see exactly where you are in terms of your industry. And then you take that information, digest and see how does it going to help you in addressing your organization KPIs. Yeah. So there are various industries, and then you could able to maturity in terms of mapping it against the industries, both from a comparison from industry size and also from the global maturity perspective. And last but not the least, the most important part I would like to emphasize here is everyone talks about Industry 4.0. Now everyone started talking about sustainability, sustainable manufacturing, right? But they fail to understand it's a step-by-step processes, right? So you need to start computerizing, you need to start building your connectivity, have a visibility from your operations, from your supply chain point of view, from your procurement point of view. Then you prepare the informations. So what is going to happen if there's any crisis happening in your procurement? How you going to able to respond to that kind of a crisis? How could you build resilience not only from a business point of view but also operational point of view? So that is where Siri helps you to build this in a more structured fashion to understand where you are exactly, what is your business objective, where you are lacking, what kind of solutions that you would like to focus on, and how this digital lever is going to help you to boost your profit statements. So this gives you a very comprehensive study within a 2 days time frame done by an expert, and then you could able to take this data out and then use it for your transformation roadmaps. Yeah. So you can see here predictability. Everyone talks about AI. Um, um, we're talking about ChatGPT in manufacturing, how you use the large language modeling. But they fail to understand if you don't have a data, if you don't have the kind of infrastructure, forget about it. Even you cannot push the informations to their cloud. How are you going to utilize Amazon? Are you talking about Google? Are you talking about Azure? How are you going to employ these cloud services, right? So it's quite important that you measure where you are, where you want to go, what are the gaps that you have, and how these technologies address these gaps. So with this, I would like to quickly address as a TÜV SÜD, as a trusted partner, you can be able to start your transformation journey from the trainings where you have certified assessment programs, and you can see here our comprehensive footprint across the globally. We have almost 4,000 plus companies assessed, and you can see here the countries portfolio, right? The mapping here, right, from the America regions to the ASEAN and to the Europe. So with this, you could able to use our expert portfolios to and also from your assessment point of view, but also from this certification programs where you can able to upskill your workforce. That is most important. Yeah. And so certification series is a program starting from the series, giving you a comprehensive approach about how to do an assessment, addressing the framework, addressing how to do an assessment in a more structured, in a more due diligence. What are the factors you need to take into considerations, and preparing them as an industry 4.0 consultant or an expert through this program, and certify them across this so that you can trust the results that you're getting in, right? That is the most important aspects that you always look into it. And they are some of the global footprints that you can see here, how this CSA program has been scaled across globally, and then what is the impact that it is creating on the economy, on the industry, on the governments, on the policies. Later, I think Raymond will share more information about it. So with this, you can see here the top organizations who have leveraged the CSA program, writing from the manufacturers, technology providers, consultants, and then how they're using this to navigate their business, and also from them manufacturers use this as a framework to navigate, measure this, validate quite periodically, because doing it periodically is the success, right? What happens often we see manufacturers use a kind of a framework, then they have a output, and then they say, oh, we invested in this solution 1.5 million, but after 3 months I need to re-strategize the whole impacts because we're not able to scale this. Why? Because they never measured the readiness of the organization, people, and technology before they move into this kind of transformation efforts. And it's not about one-stop solution efforts; it's a continuous journey. All right. So with this, Um, I would like to share and pass it to Raymond in order to share a bit more how systematically you need to step into the sustainable manufacturing and then how you can able to effort your carbon footprints and zero net targets. So with this, I'd like to pass it to Raymond.
Thank you very much. Let me share my entire screen. Can you give me the sharing rights, please? I don't have the sharing rights at the moment. So then we enjoy the next minutes in silence because I still don't have the sharing rights.
Just 2 seconds, Raymond. Just want to get you on.
Okay, then I introduce myself as long as I don't have it. My name is Raymond. I founded the company 2 years ago. We are in over 50 countries. What Ravi just mentioned, I was working for Siemens, 34 years in digital industries, responsible for the ASEAN regions. And based on the experience, we developed together with McKinsey from Siemens and from TÜV SÜD the Smart Industry Readiness Index. And the successor of it is the Consumer Sustainability Industry Readiness Index, which is focused on sustainability. When you see my slides, you will see a small butterfly. The butterfly is actually an indirect expression of our mission. Butterfly goes into a caterpillar, goes into itself, resolve all structure, come out as a butterfly, transformation. Normally a butterfly survives only in healthy environmental, which is sustainability. And the butterfly is a phenomenon where you have predictive systems and you put a little bit of energy on the system, and then you change the outcome of the system. As I still don't have the sharing rights, I can continue in theory to present the whole thing, but I think it doesn't make sense.
Sorry, Raymond, if you just refresh your console, you should be able to share your screen. I should be able to have like full access to it.
Try, no. It doesn't give me the sharing button, sorry.
You see it there on the top right-hand corner now, or it's
not
grayed
working, I
out?
know. Screen share, and then I look at entire screen, and then he doesn't offer me the sharing button on choose
Is
to
it
share.
used by anything else by any chance?
No. I'm very sorry. Let me see if I can do window. Okay. Now I got something. Can you see something now?
Yep, we should.
Okay.
To see it.
So this is the small butterfly. Let's go to, we are a non-for-profit organization. Our prioritization indexes are projects also together with World Economic Forum. We have the following target groups. We're focusing purely on manufacturing. Manufacturer have 3 problems. One is productivity, series Smart Industry Readiness Index, addressing it with digital transformation. The second one is sustainability, ESG rating, what we do with COSIRI, and we develop with McKinsey at the moment, DSIRI, Digital Supply Chain Resilience Index. We are a platform business, so we have external partner consulting companies, technology companies. To mention some of them is Yokogawa, Rockwell, Schneider Electric, McKinsey, Capgemini. They are consulting companies using our prioritization indexes and helping the customers to make more informed decision. What is the next step of their transformation? As we collect a lot of data during these assessments, governments are another target group because we do profiling of industry segments, what Ravi showed you. And then the governments can make more informed decisions regarding how does a factory of the future for semiconductor, by example, looks like, and what are the training, because based on the, let's say, secondary fabs, which are not so productive normally, what are the training we need to provide to the job shop people? So we do that in a more condensed way. I show you some examples. Equity companies is pretty new because they shorten their due diligence process for manufacturing, operation, and ESG rating. And also they use it for acquisition purposes. So we have some examples here. So these are the two which was presented by Ravi, partly the Smart Industry Readiness Index, the Digital Maturity Assessment Tool, COSIRI. We called it at the beginning MASURI, Manufacturing Sustainability Readiness Index, but we see that this is driven by the consumers in the future. So we renamed it. I show you some analytics with it. And at the moment, the COSIRI, what we at the moment developing also with McKinsey. By the way, COSIRI, we also will develop with McKinsey and Vivid. Vivid is an USA-based company focusing on sustainability, and they were acquired by McKinsey. Be a little bit different to, let's say, a certification body, because what we do is, number one, we call it 4-in-1, the prioritization index. Number one, we measure the maturity of the manufacture of the operation itself. Then we calculate a star rating, by example, ESG rating for COSIRI. And then our system calculates what is the next step based on customized input of the manufacturing side. Here, Ravi mentioned the tier systematic. I'm going a little bit more into detail here. And based on that, because certainly our assessors have a preference of technology they are firm with, but many times they face challenges from the manufacturer they might not able to help. And here we have open innovation platform, which are free of charge to use. Manuvate is the one which is crowd-based, that you do your challenge, and it's like a dating platform because we have disciplines, Industry 4.0 and sustainability, so that the challenger and the solver meet each other. So these are the 4-in-1. How do we structure the data? We structure the data in 12 industry clusters, 59 subsegments, and 158 production categories. I give an example: FMCG, fast-moving consumer good, as a cluster. A subsegment would be cosmetics, and the production category would be head and shoulders, sun and skin, and beauty and color. And when we then aggregate the data, we can do it customized, but it's anonymous, I must say. So what we do is we will never ever compare country by country. We do country cluster. By example, America is on the top. So we have their cluster A, which is 890 billion above GDP, US dollar. We have 890 billion to 290 billion cluster B. And when then one of these cluster countries say we would like to know how we are compared to the world or to a specific cluster, we aggregate the data that nobody can identify any individual or any different country in this case. When we aggregate the data here on the bottom right side, what you see is those are industry segments which are normally not competitive if they would go into an export. So what we capture also with our assessments are subsidy programs from governments, and then we see over time if these subsidy programs really have an impact. And we have historic data, and I come later to our AI generated Xeri analytics tool where we interpret the data with. So what you see, semiconductor is quite high. We at the moment talking to the semiconductor initiative in US here, and by example, because they are quite productive, the main fabs, but the secondary fabs, and let's say a little bit the aging fabs, they need to improve here their productivity. And the problem is with the automotive industry, we have here many Xeri assessors who then from the automotive industry going to the bottom right side, which are their suppliers, and then they test the suppliers, which one is not driving productivity, by example, and is endangering our cost position here. Now, let's go a little bit to COSIRI, Consumer Sustainability Readiness Index. What you see here is that we have a shift of customer expectation, because they buying behavior is changing, that they pay a price premium for more sustainable products. And this is especially driven by the millenniums and Gen Z, because they are focusing below 30, 38 years old. They're focusing really on, let's say, environmental friendly products. But of course, we have other overlapping trends, which is, by example, talents moving to sustainable companies. I read recently that oil and gas companies have certain problems because talents moving more to companies where they see sustainability. Then you have bolder environmental regulations. In Europe, you have repair regulations. So, by example, mobile phones need to be repairable in the future, TFT screens, and of course, increasing investor requirements. And here what you see is who is driving it again. And on the left side, you see the buying behavior. These are slides, by example, for the training. The training is a 40 hours training with around about 400 slides, so 100 hours self training on top of it. And you see the millenniums and the Generation Z below 38 years, they driving at the moment the sustainability with their buying behavior. Now, when we developed Cosiri Sustainability Index, we discussed with McKinsey first take enablers the company need to put in place, and that what are the levers they have to change to reach the net zero in this case. So we're looking very much into what is your sustainability strategy. Do you have any sustainable business targets or plan? Do you have an integration of ESG principles in your organization? Do you do risk management? Because it could be that certain material ingredients might not be existing anymore because of the climate changes. And then how you establish an ESG governance function in your organization. I will later go to the 1 to 5 a little bit more in detail here. What you see is sustainable operation, how you address the environmental impact here, GHG emissions. So we measure GHG emissions scope 1 and 2 in the sustainable business operation of the factory itself. But when we go to the supply chain, then we measure GHG emission scope 3 upstream, and we measure in the distribution channel GHG scope 3 downstream. And of course, we need to integrate the sustainable procurement department because they have to change the buying behaviors also and integrate then suppliers in it. The other thing is circular product design. Circular economy is based on circular product design. So what are the possibilities if you design products nowadays to reach circularity? There are at the moment 8, which we give as an example. I have one slide showing that. And of course, adoption of clean tech. But clean tech is here not only mentioned solar power, wind, and so on. Clean tech in this case is also other operating systems which capture the GHG emission automatically. And here we also have, we find worldwide startups. One is Cloudworks, by example. They then have digital twin with energy profile and GHG emission. And we then try to help them into the markets because there are no current technologies existing for it. Who knows? One of our prioritization index knows them all. So we have the so-called build blocks here, sustainable business process, technology, and organization governance. And then as the next layer, we have pillars. And based on the pillars, we coming to dimensions underneath. And in these dimensions, they are impact driven. So we're not asking or tell you what needs to do as a next step. This is then the result, but we ask you and we tell you how to do to reduce your GHG emission scope 1. How do you integrate your suppliers in scope 3 reduction? How do you design in your product circularity a product with a material CO2 passport that you then at the end of life cycle can define how many of the material can be reused. This is the framework itself. So we have here these 24 dimensions and we measure it with a fixed metric between 0 and 5. We do have the same in Smart Industry Readiness Index for digital transformation. And we have in the Smart Industry Readiness Index around about 4,000 companies in our database. And when you aggregate their transformation in digitalization on the top level into one number between 0 and 5, 0 means you have nothing, 5, you are fully digitalized, then the world is after 10 years at 1.55, means approaching digitalization of processes. So who is talking about Industry 5.0? It's very nice, but we haven't reached by far the digital transformation in 4.0. If we going to climate action, we started to discuss when I left university. I'm 62, so it's quite a long time ago. But if we aggregate the data, it's less than 1 at the moment. So at the moment, the manufacturer really are at the starting point here. So what you see here, by example, is another slide from our training. So if we talk about circularity product design, there are many other possibilities than just refurbish the product and reuse the material. What you do is zero waste manufacturing, you do remanufacturing, you do zero landfill of incineration. And we always give you also an example which companies are doing that at the moment. And the tier system, which describe on the left side the assessment itself you do with the company, and here the assessment for the Smart Industry Readiness Index is 2 days. This one for COSIRI is 3 days, and the reason why it is longer is 2 days assessment on the production site itself is in the same timely framework, but when you then discuss with the management team their GHG emission profile, you need normally half a day. And this is then what is your profile compared to your peers in the market. We calculate that after it's integrated. And then what are your sustainable business objectives? Here also very much the companies are, let's say, at the beginning with such discussions. And then we calculate the report with an outlook where they need to focus on as a next transformation step. But we put then those companies in a customized way, let's say in comparison to their peers in the market, but as mentioned, aggregated. So COSIRI will have 2 results. On the left side, what is the next step of your sustainable transformation in the dimension you need to focus on? And here we give then examples. When you are in bandwidth 2, what do you need to do impact driven to reach bandwidth 3? And on the right side, what is your GHG profile and where do you need to focus on to reduce it as a next step? So this is calculated by our platform. And then at the end, we do a calculation of the star rating. And this is, let's say, on the free will, if the company want to have a star rating or not. So the assessor can tick that one. We have here hygiene factor behind it. So the star rating is only improving if you really reduce the GHG emission to reach the net zero. So it cannot be overwritten. By example, organization is better, but unfortunately we're not reducing our CO2. This is our content framework. So what we say, we're driving manufacturing economy systems, especially for governments, because we have the Smart Industry Readiness Index where we measure the productivity. We have COSIRI for sustainability ESG. And we will have in future Digital Supply Chain Resilience Index for the supply chain resilience. And each of them will have an own database. And on top you see Xeri Analytics. This is an overarching tool. And here with Xeri Analytics, we have basic advanced. We do projections. So if I have my efforts like that and I extrapolate the projection of my peers, do I gain any market position or do I lose any market position? And with generative design, here we use Microsoft Power BI, and there we see also unstructured data. So how is my, let's say, influence of my employees to it? So we take all the data and we have generative AI here, but also project-based. This is for governments that they can include external databases. So all together, the benefit of the analytic in manufacturing, I give you only 6 examples, we have more, is we have cost profilings, we see GEG profilings of industry and country clusters, by example. So which one need to be reduced compare to your peers in the market because you're lagging behind. We do correlation analytics and of course the global benchmark. Now, why do we have 3 of the databases? Because what we see is that the data and the trends are influencing each other. And Industry 4.0 is one way where the production procedures get influenced. But when we see the overlapping of supply chain resilience or sustainability, we can see, by example, when we look to Industry 4.0 and sustainability, that there are certain requirements coming up in countries for CO2 passport for products. Or number 3, we can see that especially in the food and beverage area, the MNCs deleting supply chain 3 upstream from the suppliers, which means a little bit they go into no supply chain is a very good supply chain. And when you look then to your suppliers and you want to follow, we see that 3D printing will be a trend that virtual assets here replace real assets. So with it, I finish my presentation already. I will send the presentation to TÜV. So if you want to have it, please let them know, and I'm sure they will send it to you. So thank you very much for your attention. And now, if you have questions, please.
Raymond, it was a great getting to learn a little bit more about Insight and some of the projects that you all have been working on. So this point in the webinar, we are going to move over to questions and answers. Please keep in mind that you still have the ability to add in any questions that you'd like to add in by going to the question bar and posting those questions, and we'll try to get those addressed as well towards the end of the Q&A section. Okay, so let's get to our first questions. This one is from Sue. So the first question is, how do manufacturers use this framework and embed it into their transformation plan? Sridhar?
We do it as Raymond shared this. So it's about the complete package, right? We are talking about sustainable manufacturing, but before sustainable manufacturing, you need to address your digital manufacturing. So address your digital manufacturing, understand your profile and where your industry is performing and what are the gaps that you have, what kind of solutions that you want to deploy, identifying the right impact dimensions. And then you can apply Core Theory, as Raymond mentioned, as a sustainability framework once you have been digitally secure. So you can able to evaluate your sustainability efforts to see what is your cost to your profit to your carbon footprints, and then you can map your decarbonization roadmaps. So you can map it in a seamless effort by effort. And then I believe that will be the right approach to start to measure first, and then you upskill your people so that they could able to do a periodic assessments, validate your efforts, because what happens usually is it's not a one-stop solution, right? You need to continually validate what are you doing and then how it has been performing, whether you're able to achieve the milestones, and so that you could able to track and reinvest in the right areas. So this frameworks and roadmaps using the benchmarking, as Raymond mentioned, highlighted. So this gives you a comprehensive quantitative analysis of your current scenario within your industries, so that you can able to profile it and map it and focus on the right areas with right solutions. I hope that addressed the question. Ed, yeah, back to you.
Thank you very much, Sridhar. Appreciate the insight there. The next question we have is from Steve. Which region has the highest uptake of Siri, and why is that the case?
I could take the support from Raymond. So, Raymond, can you share some insights on the geographic?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I hear you now.
So the region with the highest impact of, let's say, 4,000 assessments, you will be astonished, is the Gulf countries. And I can tell you why. Because they rebuilt the oil and gas dominance into a manufacturing one. Because oil and gas will be replaced by hydrogen, by battery-powered vehicles. So they can foresee that there will be a certain decline, and they rebuilding at the moment their, let's say, GDP, focusing on, let's say, natural resources, into a GDP focusing on industrial manufacturing.
Thank you, Raymond, for the insight there. It's very fascinating to kind of hear what's going on in the rest of the world. Okay, the next question that we have here is from Victor. How does sustainability and digitalization come together to improve manufacturing operations?
How can?
How does sustainability and digitalization come together to improve manufacturing operations?
Okay, normally both need to drive productivity, but actually sustainability is going more into GHG emission. And when you go to digital transformation, we're going more into the manufacturing, horizontal integration, vertical integration, product lifecycle management, the intelligence on the job shop, the automation, and so on, which is separate to sustainability. The other topic you have, of course, with sustainability, green business modeling, which is at the moment not so much the case here in Smart Industry Readiness Index with the digital transformation. So we keep it separate to measure it separate because one is focusing on GHG emission, on circular economy, on risk mitigation, and the other one is driving productivity. So both go hand in hand, but focusing on different topics and two different pain points. So we have three in the manufacturing world worldwide. Focus number one is productivity. Focus number two is sustainability. Focus number three is digitalization of supply chain. Focus number four is innovation. So, and here that, but this is something where we're coming up in future.
Thank you, Raymond. Again, very insightful to learn a little bit about how that integration is occurring between those two separate but equally important topics and how they're coming together. More importantly, last question we have from today is from Rebecca. Could you explain how you are able to derive the four focus dimensions? How is it unique specifically to an organization like mine?
There's a calculation system. We have a white paper of it. So if you look into our internet page, insit.org, then search after white paper for theory prioritization matrix. You have a very detailed explanation how we calculate the priorities based on the input. Explaining this calculation methodology now here, I would say if you give me another hour, then I could explain in detail. So there's a prioritization index behind it, and we calculate based on the customized input of the customer and the assessment itself, with the system calculates the output. But here, please have a look at the prioritization index for Smart Industry Readiness Index. These around about 12 pages, which are describing the prioritization index in the background, which is calculating the automatic results. But one thing I need to mention, we're not publishing that for Cosiri because we were facing a lot of copies in Asia because of the publishing. Luckily, all these countries in Asia are now coming back to us because when you use a copy, you only use it until it was defined what for to use. If you then need to extrapolate what are the next steps, so all these countries now coming back at the moment to Syria.
Thank you very much again, Raymond. it's again, it's very helpful to hear how these can be unique to a specific company, and the output can be different no matter what you're looking at. Okay, so with that said, those were the end of the Q&A for today. So I'd like to take this time or this moment to thank our speakers, both Raymond and Sridhar, for taking the time to walk us through Industry 4.0 today. As you can see with the slide here, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, whether it's around training or assessment services, as TÜV SÜD is always happy to help have those conversations. Or if you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to send those to us as well. Please note, just for future, that you do have the ability to review this webinar on demand. So it is and will remain available to you. With that, I'd like to thank everybody today for taking the time to sit through our webinar on Industry 4.0, and we look forward to hosting you again. Thank you.